Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day. And Tom, I don't know about you, but I had a pretty happy weekend myself. I actually have, I didn't mention this to you on the pre-call, on the pre-show, but I've actually had a little issue I've been dealing with. I pulled something in my knee, and I'm not sure exactly what I did, but it's like a tendon that's inflamed or something like that. And I've had a lot of practice in terms of trying to apply the stuff that we know about the law of attraction to not allow myself to focus on the pain of the knee and, the knee's bad, and, the knee's going to be injured for weeks at a time, and I'll get myself off of that. It's been a real opportunity to work on that. And I'm doing pretty well in that regard, actually. I mean, I woke up this morning, and it's still a little bit stiff, and I think it's pretty clear to me it hasn't completely healed yet, but every morning that I wake up, the sleep obviously helps a lot, but also my mindset has helped. I've woken up, and even for the first few minutes, didn't even notice it was there, and then, stepped the wrong way. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. The knee's still a problem, right? But it's better, that's the important thing. So
that's great. That's so what are some of the things that you do to change your focus?
Well, one of the first things that I did when I first recognized that I needed to change my focus, I just put my hand on top of my knee and just held it there and just imagined healing. Just imagined that it was feeling better and that, so forth. And it's not terribly difficult to do when you don't have severe pain. And this has not been severe pain. If it was severe pain, I would have tried something else to just distract myself. But in this case, I figured, let's just try it. Just put my hand there and see if I can get the pain to reduce. And I actually did get it to reduce somewhat. In fact, I would say about 50%. So I figured that was pretty good. And then I also just tried stuff like, more conventional stuff like putting the knee up, not putting weight on it. That's also good. Anything that I could get, into a more comfortable state, into a more comfortable place was part of the plan, so to speak. Sometimes, when I was going to sleep last night, I had my knee propped on a pillow so that it would feel the most comfortable. And then once I had it like that, I just started to imagine, oh, wow, it feels good. It feels good. It's like, oh, the pain is gone. Now, was it really gone? Not really, but I was trying to pretend that it was. And I think all those things added up,
Yeah, that's powerful stuff to play with. And we talked on a previous show, you are able to transform things instantaneously, things like that. So there's a lot going on that is coming alive in the world right now about spontaneous healing and the possibility of that, what we would have called a miracle in the past, but we're realizing humans have capabilities that we've not even begun to tap to heal and to change our physical circumstances. So that's good that you're working with that.
Oh, and I also tried something else I just realized, because I've talked about in the past how medical science has shown that laughter can actually help with healing. So I actually tried experimenting with some laughter to see if that would help, and it actually does help. You get results from the laughter within 2 or 3 minutes, which was pretty good, I thought. Again, did it get rid of it entirely? No, but it helped, and anything that helps is good. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's what everything in my life in a way is about, finding ease, finding the path of least resistance.
That's right. Yeah.
So that my natural state of health, my natural state of, a calm, centered, peaceful human being who's in love with life and who's having a whole lot of fun can emerge, and the other human being that had a problematic life can no longer show up eventually. It'll no longer be my dominant way of thinking, which is definitely changing massively for me over the last 4 years that I've been focused on working with the law of attraction. It's a huge reservoir of learning in this law of attraction stuff about how to let our cork float, as Abraham said, that we're a naturally resilient, connected to source beings, and how can we just allow that rather than fight it, rather than have resistance to that.
And I can report, obviously I'm sitting down right now, because I have to sit down to do the show and talk into the microphone, but as I'm sitting here, I have no pain in my knee at all. I can feel it's a little tight, but that's about it. And this is good. This is very good.
Yeah. So. You just keep focusing on that. Every moment when you have no pain, just acknowledge that that your knee feels good. My knee feels good. My knees feels better.
In fact, as I'm talking, I'm kind of bouncing my knee because it feels good to move it.
Good.
Yeah. So how are you doing? How was your weekend?
It was great. I had a really great win, as we call it, a win over the weekend. That was really fun.
Okay.
Well, I went to an Abraham get-together. I used to go to these get-togethers where, 8 or 12 people get together in somebody's living room, and we listen to segments of Abraham Hicks, with Abraham talking through Esther Hicks. And I went to one of these. I hadn't been to one in about a year, actually, and I used to go every few weeks. And so it was the same group of people I knew everybody there. And I walked in, and, of course, immediately the segments that were put on were directly addressing what I was dealing with in my life, which, of course, happens a lot with Abraham.
Which is cool.
Whenever I go listen to a little bit of Abraham, they're always directly addressing the thing I'm dealing with. So that was happening. Mm-hmm. And then the miracle of that day, which is why I think I ended up over there, was it turns out the host of the event, it was a couple, and the man is in an Irish band where he plays this beautiful, what's it called? Bouzouki, like a Greek bouzouki.
Yeah.
And it's got 8 strings, and it's a beautiful sounding instrument. Well, he takes me upstairs and shows me his bouzouki. Well, I play guitar, but I've been looking for an instrument like that to play that has these drone strings. So each time you play a string, you're also hitting a drone string that makes this beautiful harmonizing sound. Mm-hmm. Well, to make a long story short, he's invited me to come over and learn to play this with him, and so I'm going to be buying one. And I'm so excited about it because I've been looking for an instrument like this and somebody to teach me, and here I walk right in with a guy who's completely into law of attraction, so he's got a great attitude about life and about everything. And anyway, it was just like this. It was just a gift. It was a beautiful go do this with this guy. So I go back downstairs and I'm getting ready to leave, and they have one last segment of Abraham on, and the whole segment was about how you do have time in your life for the things that you love and the things that are fun. So it was like another confirmation. So the whole afternoon was just this confirmation of life works, life's wonderful, life's a constant unfolding miracle. So it was really nice.
What fun. I mean, and that particular instrument, if it's the one I'm thinking of, it has a very cheery sound to it. It's usually used in dances and celebrations and so forth.
Yeah. Think Zorba the Greek.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's a really fun instrument, and it's got a lot of volume.
Those strings have a lot of high-end, very happy high-end harmonic sounds to them, and so
exactly.
It feels good just to hear them. Yeah, very cool.
It's for dancing. Yeah,
it's for dancing. That's right.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to have a win on the weekend. That's like a happy win. That's like a really happy one.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
That's great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know that, like you said, when you went there hoping to get a particular message. I suspect it was possibly tied into our topic today. Am I guessing right about that?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
I don't know. I just had this feeling. So why don't you tell us about it? What's the topic?
Well, the topic today is how do you receive spiritual guidance? A lot of people, including myself, may have spent a good part of their lives wondering about who can I pray to?
Yeah.
Who can I turn to in my times of trouble, in my times of concern, and when I need to make a crucial decision, when I'm suffering, when I'm too worried, or my health is deteriorating, or I'm having a problem with my relationship, or I'm feeling too lonely, whatever it is, like, where do I turn? How do I pray? Who do I pray to? Who's listening to me? And so that's the topic that I picked for today, because I happen to be in a class right now to learn how to channel the way Esther Hicks does, because I would like to, she said often that all of us are capable of channeling because we all have a larger infinite self that's completely connected to source. Duh. And that's the way it is. We are infinite beings. So that means that we're all plugged into this field of infinite intelligence, and if we would find the way to let it come through us, if we could relax enough and listen closely enough, we might be able to channel all of our own answers with a clarity that is magnificently clear. And, we turn to different things. Some people go to church and pray. Some people read the Bible. Some people read the Quran, or they read Buddha's teachings, or they listen to things on podcasts, LOA Today, or they maybe get these card decks, where you pull a card and the card, maybe it's the tarot or some kind of that you're basically plugging into some kind of a divine oracle. You're asking a question from your heart, and you're asking the universe to answer indications of how to proceed in your life. And the reality is, in my opinion, is that we all do know all of the answers to every single question that could come up, but we don't know how to let those answers in. And so today I wanted to talk about that and thought it would be a cool topic, since I'm trying to learn this with all my heart and soul.
So are you making progress? I mean, I don't know how many classes you've taken with this instructor, but have you seen any progress?
Yeah, what happened was that we talked in previous shows about how I was using automatic writing in my life for about the last, at least 7 or 8 years, maybe longer, probably more like 10 years, where, you write a question at the top of a piece of paper, and then you ask who you believe in the unseen realm to answer your question for you, and then you just start writing on the paper rather fast. You kind of don't let your pen or pencil leave the paper, or you can do this on a computer, and you write, and you trust that your divine source, whoever you trust for divine guidance, for guidance from the unseen realm, from infinite intelligence, is going to give you the answer to your question. If you just write and don't have an idea about what you're going to write, you just write a sentence, and you write another sentence, and you write another sentence, and see what comes out. Well, I had been doing that for years, and I'd had quite a bit of success with it, but I didn't do it regularly because part of me didn't really trust it completely, so I still use my logic, or reading books, or using a card deck or something else to get answers about things in my life that were of concern to me. So when I started the class, I was doing automatic writing, and I was trusting a lot. But as the further I got into the class, the more I realized that I didn't have a deep enough faith, in a sense. I do and I don't, okay? But the class was revealing to me that it was saying, so who are my specific guides? And can I get in touch with them and ask them who their names are, and have them speak to me and identify the field of energy that I'm really plugging into. And the more specific I got about it, the harder it got for me rather than easier. And so I created a dilemma for myself last week of feeling like, gosh, this is harder than I thought. So when I went to the Abraham get-together on Saturday, I wanted an answer to why am I making this hard, and how can I make this be easy for myself. And then when I picked this as a topic for today's podcast, I realized that I could look into it deeper. So as I looked into it, I got all these different answers.
Such as what?
Well, it's very interesting. You take someone like Esther Hicks. How does she get to be this person who's supposedly channeling these infinite beings that call themselves Abraham, which is some kind of a conscious collective of beings? What is it? I once heard her say that this could be thousands of beings. We don't, she said, when you try to project from the physical realm that we're in into the unseen realm, we tend to want to project into something that we can relate to. So here you've got all these people who want to pray to someone like Jesus because Jesus came in a body, so it's more easy to relate to a body, or Buddha, or Muhammad, or we basically maybe say Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, or Saint Germain, or, people have these different physical images that they imagine in the unseen realm in a certain sense that they're praying to because it makes sense. But Abraham was saying, it's really not quite like that. But that's okay if you want to picture those kind of beings that exist, as, having these wings and these things. And indeed, that can all become a reality for us if we are imagining it to be that way. But what they were saying was that what happened with Esther Hicks is that she married a man, Jerry, who had so many questions about life that he was an endless source of questions. And it was just amazing to her to be with somebody who wanted to know the answers to so many aspects of life. And she was a person who was really open and receptive to receiving impulses from the unseen realm. That's just who she was.
Well,
and so the two of them together.
Interestingly enough, though, she was resistant at the beginning. Because the first time...
She was.
Yeah, the first time that Jerry started talking about this stuff, she would leave the room. She didn't want to even have to be in the same room because she was brought up in a Christian household, and her Christian teaching had basically told her that this was sorcery and that was outlawed by the Bible and so forth. And she just couldn't bring herself to be in the same room as it. Eventually, she was able to break through because of her own curiosity due to their meeting with a channeler who channeled a being named Theo, I think it was. And
Seth?
Seth was what they were interested in. They had found out about Seth. They were reading Seth, but before they had a chance to actually have a reading with Seth, the channeler, whose name escapes me, died. So they never even got a chance to talk to Seth. But shortly after that, they hooked up with another channeler who channeled this being called Theo. And they went so that Jerry could ask a bunch of questions. They had a half an hour. And after the half hour, Esther was really intrigued. She said, well, I want to have my own session. So they go back for another half an hour. She gets all of her questions answered for a half an hour. And at the other half hour, she's still got more questions. And all of a sudden, she's broken through her barrier. But she initially had all this resistance.
Okay. And the way she describes it a lot is that she also, I've heard some of what you're saying there, which is all relevant. And then she also says that Jerry and her got convinced eventually to try meditation, was something that they were resistant to because they felt they were business people. They weren't interested in that. And so she consistently did meditation for 9 months, 15 or 20 minutes a day. But the thing that I noticed from her descriptions of her meditation is that it really worked for her. She didn't have a problem going to this place of no thought, which is the key. The key to meditating is to go to this place where the thoughts really slow down. And they slow down to such a degree that then this unseen realm begins to flood in, you might say. It begins to come more to the surface, like if you're digging for water and you get to a certain level in the earth where the water just starts to flood in. Well, she got to a certain level of so few thoughts, or the thoughts becoming so quiet behind the scene, that this water of source was able to flood into her experience, and she found herself, spelling the alphabet with her nose, and she started telling Jerry, and so he got a pad and a paper, and he started writing what the letters were, and they realized they were receiving messages from someone, was communicating through her, and that became, I guess, a big part of when she began then to eventually realize she could receive these blocks of thought, and then she could translate them into words. And at first, she used to like a podium or a chair when she spoke, because her whole, she said that she was still in so much resistance to letting this come through her that it took her quite a while. She's very embarrassed to listen to those early days when she channeled, because she felt she was, just really stiff and not really letting it flow through her very well. But she said over the years, it's just gotten easier and easier and easier and easier to now when she channels, she just feels completely at ease. And it comes through Esther's, all her aspects of her personality are there, And so she seems really normal, but she is in that state where she's channeling source.
One of the things that she's talked about when she's told that story is that when they did the meditation, they would set their clock for 15 minutes with a timer, right? And give themselves 15 minutes and see what happens. So they would, and they weren't even sure what meditation was. They even had to ask, so what are we supposed to do? We weren't sure what to do. So they asked the people who they were working with, what do we do? And they got their answer basically, loose fitting clothing, breathe deeply, let your mind wander, and when it wanders, bring it back to your breathing and stuff like that. So they said, okay, we'll try that. So they start doing that. And Esther, within minutes of the first few times that she starts doing that, starts feeling this elation entering her body. She felt like she was being breathed, she said. At one point she felt like there was an an internal being, an internal source that had kind of taken over in a very pleasant way and was breathing her body. I'm thinking, that would be a little spooky, I think. I mean, she loved it.
Yeah.
The way she was describing it, it was like ecstasy. But I'm thinking, something else breathing me? I'm not sure that feels good.
Well, have you had that experience in meditation at all?
No, I have not.
Well, there is an experience I've had, because I've been, like I said before, I've been meditating since 1972, about an hour to an hour and a half every day, pretty much, the whole time, since, July of 1972. Well, it said, you've got to do a minimum of an hour a day, and you should be doing 2 hours, an hour in the morning. That's extreme compared to what most people these days are doing, but I had experiences many times of sitting there and getting to a place where I didn't want to get up for the rest of the day. I felt so good inside. The level of lightness, and it was almost like every breath became a beautiful glass of ambrosia, of the most sweet thing you could imagine drinking, just like I was just so filled up inside that it was just utter peace, utter peace. And so I couldn't even, I said, well, if I didn't do anything for the rest of today, this is all I'd want to do. But eventually I would get up and start doing things. But, so yeah, I think I know a little bit about what she's talking about. And I also realize that I'm still, even today, longing and allowing that experience to still come about. And that's the key. I mean, it's one of the bottom line key to being receptive to the unseen realm is to get into a state like that. For us to be able to receive what is automatically there. The beautiful thing is that Esther said, look, it's in every single one of us, and it's available to every single one of us. And don't shortchange yourself by thinking that that's only for exceptional people like Esther, or anybody else who's a psychic or who can channel these energies from the unseen realm. They said all of us are totally connected to the unseen realm, and it's just a matter of our resistance that stands between us and letting those messages come through, letting that clarity come through, letting that joy, letting that peace, letting that love, letting that insight come through to answer any question that we might have. But she said the reason that she became so good at it is because she had a man that she was married to who did all the asking. So she was not caught up in the questions. He had so many that she didn't have to have any questions of her own. But because she became so open to receptivity, to being the receiver, she became the one who could then channel, because you can't let anything through you that you're not vibrating with. So if you're vibrating with the question, and the question has angst in it, and the question has a charge on it, if you're really worried about getting an answer to something that's bothering you, then your question vibration makes it hard to receive the answer. So what she's recommending is that if you want to get direct input from the unseen realm, ask your questions one day, get your questions down on paper, then don't try to answer them that day. Wait a day or two, and when you're in a really good place, you've just finished meditating, for example, or you're just feeling really great because you just listened to all the music that you love, or you're just in a good, relaxed, happy place, then is the time to ask for the answers to your questions. To sit, like after meditation, just sit there and close your eyes and say, say to that unseen realm, what can I do to experience more joy? Or what's hindering my ability to do such and such? What shift could I make around that? What's stopping me from attracting the right relationship into my life? Or what can I do to increase the amount of money that I need to have coming in? Whatever your question is, don't be caught up in the vibration of the question. Because if you have a big charge on it, that's going to block the receptivity to the answer.
That's a good point, because Abraham has told us many times that the vibration of the question and the vibration of the solution are two entirely different things. That they're very, very, very different vibrations. So I can see if you're focusing on the question, you may not be able to be receiving the answer. You may not be able to receive the solution just because you're focusing on something that prevents you from seeing it.
Exactly. Just like when you're in the most pain with your knee, sometimes it's the hardest time, at least for me. Like if I'm experiencing some symptoms in my body, like a sore throat or a really bad sinus headache or something, that's the hardest time to imagine myself being completely free of it.
I think it's really something, too, because when we're asking a question or when we're posing a problem or something like that, I don't think we really realize that we're not feeling good. But really, that's what we're saying. I mean, if the vibration is so different, what it really means is that the feeling isn't as good as when you have a solution. When you have the solution, it feels great, right? When you know what the solution is, it feels really good. Well, if it's not the same vibration or even a similar vibration, it's got to be that at very least it feels neutral and quite possibly feels bad. And yet when we think about what a question is, we don't really think of it as like, oh, well, that feels bad. That's just not the way we think about it. We just think, oh, this is a question. This is a problem. I got to solve this.
Well, and that's often when we spin our wheels the most, right? Like you're saying, because we're trying too hard, because we're so caught up in the worry and the angst we feel around our question. And maybe it's something that's been bothering us for years, and so we carry that vibration of this has been bothering me for years. And when are you guys, God, Jesus, Buddha, Archangel Michael, when are you going to help me? I need an answer to this.
Yeah, right.
I need an answer now. I need an answer now. I'm suffering. I'm going through it. You guys have got to help me. And sometimes we feel the incredible frustration at that time because the answer can't come through because we're pulsing with this vibration of I'm suffering, I'm in trouble here, I'm hurting, I need help.
It's almost like when
that's often not when the answer comes.
It's almost like when we're in that state, in that place of being solely focused and solely wrapped up in the problem, in the question, that it's almost like we are literally in a different place, like in a place that is a different location, so that when the answer comes, we're nowhere near the right location for it. That's not actually what happens, but it seems like that.
Well, and it is like that. I mean, Abraham was saying how Source, our infinite intelligence, is giving us impulses for the most perfect path for our lives every second, constantly giving us multiple options for a really wonderful life path to unfold for us. And we're either in the mode of being receptive to it or we're in resistance to it and unable to even notice the impulses that are coming. So the key becomes, like Abraham was saying, you've got to really take a lesson or take a look at the little children. These little kids, especially, the younger they are, I suppose, they're constantly receiving impulses from Source and following them. So is your cat or your dog and the animals we see in nature. They're constantly receiving impulses and following them. I know I went to that Abraham get-together and at this house, they have this platform that was up pretty high in the room, like about 8 feet up, and they have plants growing up there, and there's a light coming in that window, this nice arched window. And I noticed halfway through the Abraham get-together, there was a cat that had climbed up there. And you couldn't see any way the cat got up there. And it was just in heaven. It was laying there, wagging its tail, playing with things, and just totally in heaven, up there with all these plants, just relaxed and throwing its head back. And I was just reminded of how here we were struggling, listening to Abraham so we can get our answers in our life and find guidance. And this cat was just in ecstasy.
Yeah, sure. In fact, it makes me think of something. You've talked about the difference between the solution and the problem. We've talked about it being different vibrations. You've talked about how when you meditate and you were particularly successful that day with the meditation, it just kind of overwhelms you with this tremendously powerful, positive feeling. And it occurs to me, sometimes, there have been many times actually, during these podcasts when I've talked with you or Wendy or Joel or Cindy or David, and in the midst of the conversation, I'm feeling so relaxed by what we're talking about that I find myself almost unexpectedly not thinking about what my next answer is, and it just sort of comes out. Do you know what I'm talking about? So like definitely. You'll say something, maybe you're talking and you ask me a question, and I haven't had any chance to think about it, and I get so relaxed that I'm willing to just start talking, even though I don't know what I'm going to say. And then I start talking, and stuff comes out, and I say, whoa, that was pretty good. Where'd that come from?
Exactly. Yeah, when I started giving that example about earlier in the show of the water coming into a well when you reach a certain level, and how that is when you meditate and you reach a certain level, something starts to flood into your being, this source energy. And that was an example that just came automatically to me. I didn't, and I didn't even know where I was going when I started talking about that. But then it just unfolded as I spoke. And that is really why I want to become a channeler, because we all are channelers. And why not let my wisdom come through me if I have a unique wisdom? And we were talking a little bit before the podcast about how every human being comes in with this completely unique gift, a completely unique self-expression. So you might say each of us has a unique connection to infinite intelligence. And as we begin to express ourselves and let it come through us, we are huge resources to each other. That's why I love on this podcast when I'm doing a lot of talking this particular show, but a lot of times we both talk pretty equally, and hopefully you'll get a chance to say a lot more here. But I'm feeling like I love that because it stimulates me to hear what you're going to say next. I mean, I literally get a grin on my face when I hand the microphone back to you because I want to hear what you're going to say.
Oh yeah, me too. Most of these podcasts, I have a big smile on my face. I mean, that's the only bad thing about a podcast. You can't see what we're doing, what we look like, or what we're, are we smiling, are we frowning, or whatever. But most of these podcasts, this smile just kind of creeps up on me. I don't have to work at it at all. It's just like, whoop, there it is again.
Yeah.
Probably the best clue that listeners have.
We'll be on Fox Fox Network, or we'll be on MSNBC or something. We'll have our own show.
But I tell you, probably the best clue a listener has is when I laugh, because I'll laugh quite frequently in many shows. And when I'm laughing, I guarantee you it's because there's a smile on my face and it's just kind of overwhelmed me. So that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, right on.
But this whole thing really points to the fact that not only are we capable of channeling, I think we actually channel more than we realize. I think there are times, that's what I was describing when I was saying what I did during a podcast. Periodically, I'd just start talking and stuff would come out. I guess I have to call that channeling, because I certainly wasn't conscious about, this is what I'm thinking about, so I'm going to say that. I didn't have time for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was reading something where Abraham was saying, don't assume that you don't have the same capabilities as Esther does, and that don't, because they said you're in the receiving mode a lot more than you might think. And it's almost like having the faith that we are instinctually created that way. They were talking about how, when you watch a little chick born and it hatches out of the egg, well, first it has the instinct to hatch out of the egg.
Yeah.
Then it has, the second it's out of the egg, it has this instinct to immediately start going around pecking, so many animals, they have that instinct as soon as they're born to begin doing what the rest of their similar animals do, right? It's just bred into them. She was talking about how when, I think it's monarch butterflies, make their migration, this huge migration, they make, 5,000 miles or something. And they say that the butterflies that start out migrating from South America are not the butterflies that end up in Canada.
Mm.
They go through 5 generations of butterflies during that time.
Wow.
And so each generation that's born during that 5,000-mile trip knows how to continue the journey. And they know exactly what to do. They know exactly when to mate. They know exactly where they're going, and they know exactly how to get there, but they do it through 5 generations. And Abraham was making the point that we are all instinctually connected to infinite intelligence. And human beings have kind of just the only species that have forgotten that. And as we begin to remember that and let it come through us, the answers to all these things we call our worries and our problems, they're always there. We always have the answers to everything, but we have lost our ability to trust that. It's all in our vortex. Like one of the hugest things that's giving me total faith in my life these days, to whatever degree, I won't call it total, but I'm having as much faith as I possibly can. Every day I'm trying to grow that faith in what's already in my vortex. All the money I want is already in my vortex. All the relationships I want are already in my vortex. Everything, the health of your knee is already a done deal. Your knee is totally healed. My sinus condition is completely healed. Anything that we ask for is immediately given. And that's the faith in divine guidance, is knowing that it's a done deal. And if we could just get to that place, we wouldn't have to be begging an angel to give us a solution to our problem. We would say, it's already in my vortex, There's a place where I asked and my answers were given. But now, everything that I've read about this thing of receiving divine guidance comes down to one thing, and that is, are you receiving?
Yeah, right.
Are you in the receptive mode? Because it's all about our entire day. Can we be more into the receptive mode? Because life is completely giving us everything every second, but we don't often have the faith to accept that that's the way it's designed, right?
And I have to admit,
little kids do, animals do.
Yep. And I have to admit, I don't think of it in terms of faith. I think of it in terms of resistance and acceptance. Mm-hmm. Because those words are more specific to me. They're more meaningful to me in their specificity. So resistance, as Abraham defines it, is emotional resistance. It's whether or not I'm feeling good or feeling bad about the subject. If I'm feeling bad, that's resistance. If I'm feeling good, that's not resistance. That's non-resistant. That's, flying right into me. Same thing with acceptance. If I am feeling good, I'm in a receiving and accepting mode. If I'm feeling not so good or even feeling bad, I am definitely not in an accepting mode. So that's why I like to think of it in terms of accepting and in terms of non-resistance, of just being in the flow, so to speak, because it reminds me what I really need to do is make sure I'm feeling good. If I'm feeling good, all is well. If I feel good, well, then everything's starting to come. And experience shows that. My experience shows me, and it shows you, it shows all of us that is true. When we are feeling good, we're in that feel-good place, that's when the good things happen. David was telling a story yesterday. He didn't tell this one on the air, so maybe I'm kind of sharing something I'm not supposed to share. But I'll tell you, he's told similar stories in the past. He likes going to casinos. And it's amazing, Tom. Every time he goes to the casino, he wins because he's able to put the resistance aside. He's able to put the resistance aside and to be in accepting mode and just let it go and just enjoy it and feel good and so forth. And he wins every time. So it's just amazing.
Wow.
And he does it on something
Wow.
you're not supposed to do it on. You're supposed to you're supposed to have the least chance of winning on slot machines. That's like your worst odds. And he always wins on slot machines. I mean, think about that. That's pretty
cool.
crazy.
Yeah, I really think all of life actually works this way. It's astonishing to think that it could be that interconnected, but I even think, I mean, the way our computer works, the way our car works, the way everything in our life is actually tied to this infinite intelligence, this field of all knowing, this field of infinite possibilities. And we're either in that mode, like you say, of acceptance, or we're in a resistant mode.
By the way, I want to mention something. I'm not recommending that people go to the casinos to play slot machines figuring they're going to win because they're going to be non-resistant. I can't guarantee what your resistance level is going to be, so I'm not recommending that at all, okay? If you know you're in a non-resistant mode, you're not going to need me to suggest it one way or another. But if you have any question about it, if you're thinking maybe I can do it, don't even try it. You'll just be disappointed.
Right.
We don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah, and we're not saying don't go see your doctor if you've got a physical ailment because you believe you're going to totally heal it with your connection to infinite intelligence.
That's right.
I think your connection to infinite intelligence can make a huge difference. But, because of the way the medical establishment is set up, you're not supposed to say that people shouldn't go see their doctor. So I would never say that. I think you should go see your doctor. But I know that I've healed so many things in my own life by my attitude. It has a huge, my mood and my attitude. That's what it comes down to. It was interesting that you used the word acceptance because I heard Abraham say a little while ago, they were asking somebody, what do you think the main word that we've said the most in all of our years of Abraham doing presentations? And they said it's the word acceptance.
Uh-huh.
So that was a good word that you used because they were saying how it's accepting the fact of how, this source energy is allowing you to have this wonderful life and everything is already created in your vortex once you ask for it, and that you're constantly asking, and then you just have to accept and let it in. You have
accepting,
to accept it.
Accepting, allowing, that's all
is.
pretty much the same idea, but it basically is what mindset are we in? That's really what it amounts to. I mean, this whole thing about acceptance and allowance and non-resistance and so forth, what's the mindset? If the mindset is good, if it's positive, if it feels good, then it's the right mindset. And that's cool. That's a nice thing because it means we don't have to be experts in order to be experts, if you know what I mean. We don't have to have got all this down pat in order to know what the right result is and what it's going to take to get to that right result. All we have to do is get ourselves to that good feeling place. Now, is it always easy to get to the good feeling place? Not always easy, but doesn't make it any less worthwhile. Doesn't make it any less worth trying to do and learning how to do more consistently, which is what I've been dedicating my life to over the last 5-10 years, something like that, because it is worthwhile. And ultimately, as you and I talked about this on Friday, ultimately what it really is about is living the life of joy, because that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, joy. What did Abraham say? The three things we come here for this planet are for joy, freedom, and expansion, or growth. And that joy is by far the thing that we're mainly here for. And I love that what you're saying. Our emotional guidance system is to tell us, are you feeling bad or are you feeling good? If you're feeling bad, that's your emotions telling you that your source self doesn't feel that way and sees it differently. And then when you're feeling good, it's telling you that you're aligned with your source self. It's kind of really basic, really
it is
simple.
basic, but the basics are the best part. I mean, I'm reading Law of Attraction, which is like their basic book. It's the basic Abraham book. It's like the first one, right?
Uh-huh.
And in that one, in that book, it said the part that I read last night said there are two emotions, positive and negative, which is not what we're used to. We're used to there are lots of emotions. No, there are two, positive or negative. That's it. We just have different names for them. That's all.
Yeah. And sometimes Abraham says things that are, where they just sort of say, really, it's all just about that one thing. I got this little paragraph here. They said, everything you want is all queued up for you. The answers have already been made. It's you're putting yourself in the place of receiving them. But you see, you don't realize that for the most part, because you're more interested in turning thoughts to things than you were in the creating of the thought to begin with. But the hard work is already done. So step one and step two, the asking and then allowing it to be received. And then you live the life that has done the creation. Now it's the allowing the creation to be realized by you. That's what your work now is about everything in your life, is allowing the creation of what has already been created to be realized by you. And I love that, because I was walking around this morning before our podcast, just getting ready and just thinking about my different problems and thinking all those problems are already solved. And I love that. They're already all solved. That's like, why am I still thinking that they're problems? And I'm getting better every day at giving up the idea that I have problems.
That's good.
And just watching for solutions.
Yeah, that's especially the good part, because it's hard to just give something up blank and not replace it with something. But when you replace it with something as good as looking for solutions instead of problems, you look for the solutions, not the problems. Look for the solutions, not the problems. That's an easier transition to make, because now you're replacing problems with solutions. Which, when you, on the face of it, when you think about it, well, that's what we should be doing anyway. I mean, we shouldn't have to have Abraham telling us, look at the solutions, not at the problems. That should be fairly obvious. And yet we still get hung up on the problems. So it's good advice. The other thing that occurs to me too,
our solutions come as impulses.
Yeah.
They come as impulses throughout our day. And Esther was saying how she tries to leave her life as unscheduled as possible so that she can be able to receive impulses. So she tries, and I've been doing that more and more over the last, I'd say, 6 or 7 years. I've been moving more and more away from having a list of things to do and more into having a few things scheduled on a given day. But then I'm trying to every day more and more follow what the impulses are suggesting that I do. What impulses am I receiving, rather than am I just knocking things off my list of things to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that feeling, because it's as Abraham said, there's a super bright path that will light up for you as you more and more listen to what the impulses are telling you, and you won't even have to be asking Archangel Michael for help, because you'll be seeing your path lighting up for you. The more that you're in that place that you're just surrendered to be receptive. And just say, hey, infinite intelligence has got my back, and I know that there's all kinds of eyes on me. That I'm completely being taken care of, and so everything is already queued up for me. And what I'm just being shown is what's the brightest path to go on. I really noticed that this weekend when I went to that Abraham get together, and watching this path light up for me while I was there, of being introduced to this wonderful instrument, the Greek bouzouki, and that this guy telling me he would love to teach me to play it. It was like, oh my God. I was even saying to him, I said, this is something I've been wanting to have happen for years. That I would all of a sudden be with a teacher who's going to teach me one of these indigenous instruments, one of these really cool ethnic instruments. And there it was. It was just unfolding for me.
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
all I did, I went to that house, and I was asking for divine guidance in my life,
Which is very cool. And in fact, it also makes me think, because we keep basically repeating the same stuff here and saying it in different ways, but we're repeating the same stuff. It reminds me of something that Abraham said in a workshop that I saw a video on YouTube. They were starting off the workshop, and they'd done their introductory remarks, and now it was time for what they call the hot seat. They're inviting people down to sit in the hot seat and interact directly with Abraham. The first person comes down, and the first person's going through, the nervousness because they know they're on camera and all that kind of stuff, and they're trying to get their thoughts together, trying to figure out how to ask this question. And Abraham says something to the effect of, go ahead and ask your question, and don't worry, we already know what it is. And the answer is always the same.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they say that a lot. Yeah.
I love that. But it's true.
I do too. Yeah, and I love these podcasts because each podcast is a chance to take a different topic and massage it with the same understanding that the previous topic had, and the previous topic had, and the previous topic had, because the answers are the same. If you go listen to every single podcast, you'll find us arriving at the same conclusions in every discussion, which is it's already in your vortex. You created it by your asking. Source delivered it immediately. Now can you let it in? Can you let it in? Can you let yourself have your life be a life of solutions, as you were saying? Or, and I just noticed that the reason I have to hear it so many times over and over again and say it in so many ways is because something in me when I was a little kid or something developed this white knuckle grip on fear, of not being taken care of fear that I'm not going to get what I want in my life, of fear that something's going to devastate me and there's going to be some huge catastrophe that's going to overwhelm me. And it's just sort of like I'm learning to release that white knuckle grip, of holding on so tightly, like when you go on the roller coaster, and there's some people that it's totally freaky for them and they hold on really tight, and other people, they put their hands up in the air and just scream at the top of their lungs.
Yeah, I'm in the first group. I'm the one who at the end of the ride goes over in the corner and throws up. So I'm definitely in the first group. I don't like a roller coaster at all.
I kind of have been too, but I'm learning to let go. It's like when I was saying last week when we walk out on the stage in a comedy improv scene and you have no idea what you're going to say and you pretty much don't know who you are on the stage as far as a character. And then you have to let the scene inform you everything, and then you have to let yourself speak from that place. But really, that's the way life is. It's like it's a constant improvisation if we want to just play with it. If we want to have fun with it.
There was an image I saw on Facebook. I think it was Facebook, or maybe it was in a news article. I'm not sure, but it was a shot of 4 Buddhist monks in their robes, in a roller coaster, with their hands in the air. Just having a blast riding the roller coaster. So that's the image that came to my mind when you're describing that. Like these 4 Buddhist monks, yahoo!
Yeah, right on. Even the monks, yeah. Sometimes those monks will fool you because they're pretty happy guys, They seem like, oh my God, how could they live that life, just like doing nothing but praying all day long. But then they have all these lighthearted moments.
I think it was.
And maybe they're in ecstasy when they're praying too.
Very, very, very possible. I can't remember who it was. One of the co-hosts on the podcast pointed out to me one time that the Dalai Lama is known for having the eccentricity of just bursting into laughter periodically for no reason at all. I think that's pretty cool because that shows just how lighthearted he is. You can't do that unless you're feeling lighthearted.
Yeah, and that's for sure.
And I have experienced that, not nearly as often perhaps as he has, but I have experienced that. Most notably when I'm listening to my music and taking my walk, every once in a while, I'll just find myself chuckling and laughing. And I'm like, what am I laughing at? I don't know what I'm laughing at. There's nothing going on that's funny. Why am I laughing?
Yeah, it's because it's your natural state.
Yeah. Well, especially
that's that thing Go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially when you realize that laughter very often is a way of shaking off negativity. So like I can finally get to the point where I can just shake it off. And I think that's what's happened in those cases where I've experienced that. I've gotten myself into enough of a receiving mode that I can just shake off all the stuff that I've been hanging on to all this time. So I figure that's always a victory whenever that happens.
It is. Somebody was asking Abraham, why don't, he said, Abraham, you're so funny. You say so many funny things. Why don't you ever laugh at your own jokes? And they said, because we're never surprised by how humorous the universe is. Because we know that the universe is a lighthearted place, so we're not. It says laughter comes out of being surprised that you have this realization that something is funny. But they said we know everything is lighthearted, that there's nothing serious going on here at all. This is a giant situation comedy, so we just have this ironic, dry humor that we constantly make because we realize it's just a funny place.
I just realized too, there are people
interesting.
Oh yeah, very interesting. There are people also, I realized, who, if they're in a really bad place and they don't like what's going on, a lot of spam is hitting the fan and so forth, they'll say something like, oh, life is such a joke. And they don't mean that funny. They just mean it as,
No.
I'm so disgusted. They have no idea how right they are. That's what occurs to me. They don't get that, it really is. But not the way they're thinking about it. It's actually a very lighthearted place. I didn't think that. I certainly didn't believe that. Certainly when I first heard about Law of Attraction and started, watching The Secret and reading the books and various things like that, I didn't have any sense that life was lighthearted at that point. So I can see where they're coming from. I'm sympathetic to them. But I also know.
Still am sympathetic to anybody who is in pain or anybody who's suffering or anybody who's worried. I mean, there's things that can happen on the face of the earth and can happen to our bodies and everything and to our minds that are scary as hell. And they're not fun, but where's the predominance of our consciousness? I mean, if we're 51% believing that it's a lighthearted place, I think we're better off, and if we're 75% believing it's a lighthearted place, I think we're even better off.
Oh, yeah.
And do I lose anything by believing that it's the 100% that it's lighthearted? Probably not, because then if that horrible thing happens to me where somebody stabs me in the stomach or something, maybe I won't, be in horrible tragedy. Maybe it doesn't have to be that, maybe dying doesn't have to be a tragedy.
Well, thank you so much for that image.
Can be less, huh?
Thank you so much for that image. I mean, I'm going to try to get rid of that one as soon as possible.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. I had a really bad dream right before the show when I was waking up, and I'm sorry I mentioned that.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
But it showed me that there are things on the earth to be, that are freaky, that are really hard for us to take, right? Like, why is it created that way? There are things that are hard to take. So I just want to acknowledge that lots of people listening to this lighthearted banter go, yeah, but I'm suffering, and there's a lot of suffering on the earth, and it's hard to go into this idea that it's all lighthearted and that there's nothing serious going on here. It's a situation comedy. Some people would just, really get angry to hear that.
Oh, sure.
And,
I think I'd be one of them.
There's been times where I would have.
Yeah, me too.
But not now.
Yeah. In fact, with my knee, we were talking about my knee earlier. If I was not studying Law of Attraction, if I was not making it a major topic in my life and a major exploration, I'm willing to bet that a minor knee injury would have fairly quickly devolved into a major structural problem preventing me from walking. And probably would have happened within, maybe as soon as 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, the potential is always there. The advantage, I think, and this is the huge advantage of studying Law of Attraction and so forth, is that I can now minimize that to the point where it will go away. So I don't have to go down that terrible path. And that's the reason I study LOA.
Yeah. No, it is. We're the creators, and I apologize for creating that moment of ugly scene there. So, no, it's true that we don't need to create those things. I was just amazed my mind did it in a dream. Well, I know we got to go, but it's just important to recognize that we are creating our realities, even in our dreams somehow. And if we get disturbed, we can still turn around and face the light again. We can constantly turn around and face the light. With
some very, very positive ensuing, I hesitate to call them consequences. Results is probably better. The results are always terrific. And that's the important thing. If we remember that, we always end up with terrific results. And that's great news. Don't really have a lot of time to tell people how to subscribe, but if you haven't subscribed, please do. And then also tell friends so they can subscribe too, because people who subscribe, they listen to lots of podcasts and they love it. That's all I have time to tell about that. Tom, if somebody needs a little personal coaching assistance, how do they reach you?
They can go to my website, which is youarejoy.com, youarejoy.com, and there's a page on there. You can sign up for a free coaching session with me, and we can see where it goes from there.
Sounds cool. Tom, it's been a pleasure. Let's do it again Friday.
Okay, well, I enjoy it every time. Thank you so much.
Okay, see you next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.